Dear colleagues, sorry for the delay, and now with the urgent information from the anti-terrorist operation zone, Colonel Andriy Lysenko, spokesman for the Information and Analysis Center of the Council for National Defense and Security. You're welcome. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. The analysis of data says that there is a trend to increase the activity of reconnaissance and subversive groups and the intensity of shelling on the side of terrorists and Russian troops. In particular, the shellings have intensified against the settlements in Luhansk region controlled by the Ukrainian authorities. On the left bank of the Seversky Donets River, our military have repelled the attack from the direction of the settlement Heivka. Then the terrorists sustained losses. In Donetsk airport and next to the city of Avdiivka, the militants have 7 times shelled the positions of the anti-terrorist operation forces from batteries, mortars, grenade launchers, anti-aircraft cannons and firearms. They also continue to fire at Debaltsevo and settlement of Tonenka. Besides, the terrorists have shelled our positions in Donetsk region next to Nikishina, Uglygirsk, Verkhovatka, Mayorsk, Krasnovarivka, Mykolaiivka, Kirova, in Luhansk region, in the vicinity of Sokilniki, Trехizbenka, Shastya, Krimska, Zolotemi, Usnovo, Grigorivka, Popasna, Chernokhinka. The Security Service of Ukraine have launched a criminal proceeding against the citizen of the Russian Federation, Mikhail Porechenkov, according to the Article 258-3 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine, for his participation in the terrorist activity of the so-called DNR. We draw your attention to the fact that during the firing at the positions of Ukrainian military in Donetsk airport, Porechenko had a helmet with an inscription "Press" that brutally violates journalistic standards and again emphasizes the nature of the participation of the Russian press in the conflict in Ukraine. The Russians continue to redeploy personnel and machinery of offensive nature on the territory of Donbass. And this machinery is concentrated on the Donetsk direction. The air reconnaissance facts with the help of drones were detected in the vicinity of Sartana, Velika Novosilka and Donetsk region. Another drone was detected by our bodyguards on the Transnistria segment of Ukrainian-Moldovan part of the border next to the Ukrainian settlement Sadovo in Odessa region. Over the last 24 hours, 1 Ukrainian military died and another 4 got wounded. Yesterday, it became possible to release another Ukrainian military who was wounded in action and was held by terrorists. The Ukrainian authorities are doing everything so that our guys return home as soon as possible, and every person who is returned home is a great victory. There were no combat clashes on the border outside the boundaries of the anti-terrorist operation zone. Today, at around 7 a.m., the movement of the so-called Russian humanitarian convoy started on the territory of Ukraine. In general, at 2 Russian border crossing points, Matveyev, Kurgan, and Donetsk, the movement of 76 lorries and 147 persons was observed. The Ukrainian bodyguards who work at these points within the framework of interdepartmental working groups had only an opportunity to visually inspect the transportation means and the load, and it has not got through customs. The representatives of the International Red Cross have not taken part in customs formalities and in the movement of the cargo. This means that the Russian side has violated the demands of international and Ukrainian law as far as the movement of goods of humanitarian help is concerned. The lion's share of the cargo is meant for the provision of the units of militants because they have problems with supply deliveries. Part of the food will be disseminated, handed out in front of cameras to local residents during the pseudo-elections of the 2nd of November. On Mariupol direction, we see the activization of illegal armed formations composed of people from Caucasus next to the settlement Sakhanka, and the machinery from this district is moving towards Shirokine. The situation in Mariupol proper is calm. As we said, there's a growing contradiction and juxtaposition between terrorist groupings. Unfortunately, peaceful residents suffer because of this. Yesterday in Donetsk, militants of different armed groupings were firing at each other, were shelling each other with the help of artillery. As a result, one peaceful resident died, another one got wounded. Yesterday at 9:30 a.m. in Debaltsevo, in the sorting park of the Debaltsevo railway station, between the tracks next to a cistern filled with incendiary material, a self-made explosive device was detected and defused. It was composed of 9 grenades, 6 grenades F1 and 3 Erga 5 grenades, automobile battery and electric wires. A criminal proceeding has been launched according to the Article 258 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine, an attempt at terrorist act. Taking into account that in recent time the activity of subversive groups has risen, including settlements outside the zone of anti-terrorist operation, we call upon citizens of Ukraine to be vigilant and in particular to pay special attention to uncharacteristic activity in the cellars of residential houses. You can call the hotline of the Security Service of Ukraine at 08 00501 482 or to the closest law enforcement point. To 39 districts and towns of Donetsk region, the state help to the tune of 166.1 million hryvnia was channeled for families with children, poor families, and childhood disabled persons, and also the payments are continuing in Petrovsky district of the city of Donetsk, and the subvention to the tune of 68.1 million hryvnia went to 16 districts and towns of Luhansk region. As of the 30th of October, the payment was paid to the tune of 38.5 million hryvnia. The President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, talked on the phone with Jean-Claude Juncker, who, as of the 1st of November, starts to perform the duties of the head of European Commission. They discussed the situation in Donbass. Petro Poroshenko said that violation by the militants of the bilateral regime of ceasefire and the intention to hold illegitimate elections on the 2nd of November ruined the Minsk agreements about peaceful settlement. In her conversation with the President of Ukraine, the Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, condemned the intention to conduct pseudo-elections in the so-called DNR and LNR on the 2nd of November because they contradict the Minsk Protocol of the 5th of September. The President of Ukraine emphasized that all the parties to the Minsk Protocol and Minsk Memorandum are responsible for its fulfillment, including Russian Federation, that confirmed its adherence to these agreements as a result of a multilateral dialogue in Milan on the 17th of October. The President of France, François Hollande, and the Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, emphasized the importance of the implementation of Minsk Protocol of the 5th of September. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that Russia has to apply real efforts with the aim to provide for the observance of the agreement on ceasefire in Ukraine. And he also stated about the unprecedented air force activity of Russia in Baltic, Northern and Black Seas. Stoltenberg said that over 48 hours since Wednesday, the Western countries have intercepted not less than 24 aircraft and more than 100 over a year. The ministers for foreign affairs of the countries of Visegrad 4 and the United Kingdom in their joint statement emphasized the illegitimacy of the so-called elections planned for the 2nd of November in self-proclaimed DNR and LNR because they run contrary to the Minsk agreements of the 5th of September. Besides, the diplomats called upon Russia to help the peaceful settlement of the Ukrainian conflict and not to recognize those elections.
There's no information in social network about checkpoint 31 in Lugansk region. Yesterday we had information that that checkpoint is reinforced by personnel and engineering reinforcement is being done. Please ask the questions into the mic. We don't have any information today. One more question. There was information today that Zakharchenko stated that near Krasnoarmeysk, many bodies of killed people, 286 bodies were found. And these killed people are women. Do you know anything about this information? This is the huge number of people, and if this were the reality, it would have been known. But if it is the person who the day 2 days ago declares the war, and then yesterday this person finds some killed people, then this person should explain all these things. I have a question. There's information that Lugansk and Donetsk republics are mobilizing women. How will Ukrainian soldiers behave if they have to shoot at women? Basically, at the front, when someone shoots at you, you shoot back. As a rule, this happens at a big distance, approximately 500 meters, 1,000 meters distance. And you can see just the outline of a person, and you cannot know whether that's a man or a woman. And so all who shoot at Ukrainian citizens and at Ukrainian servicemen are enemies, and they get reply. Any other questions? Once you have no more questions, thank you. And tomorrow there will be the press briefing of NSDC at 12:30. Today at 3 o'clock, the representatives of different political forces